Jesus, they have like turned half of America into a food desert. They make Walmart look like saints.
I've heard vague bad things about Dollar General. I do know that I find them personally depressing to go to, or I
There's
did.
really good reporting on it, but like a lot of what happened was lots of areas in America where they're not big enough for places like Walmart or Kmart or some like bigger superstore. But they'd usually have their own grocery store or gas station. But Dollar General being like, I think one of the biggest companies in America right now for like retail, they'd come in and basically undercut the prices on like the local grocery stores and stuff to where like they couldn't compete. But the thing that makes it real sad is Dollar General doesn't like market in any type of like fresh produce or like.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, who the fuck does their grocery shopping there?
Basically, they come in, they offer better prices, they take ETB, and basically turn areas into like food deserts, to where like the only thing part of like some people even contribute some of the like high weight in like lower class America to the fact that a lot of these cities now only have places where they can buy like processed food, because the only thing you can really buy at like Dollar General is hamburger helper, frozen hamburger meat, and frozen dinners.
And it's cheap as hell, yeah.
Wait, yeah, I mean my remote keyboard, because I forgot to put it on my desk.
Oh, okay. A village that's like population unincorporated.
Yeah, basically, where you just like drive on like an endless sort of like small country road.
Yeah. Wisconsin's full of those little cities. Or you can't even call them towns. I would call them like, unincorporated villages, basically.
Yeah, basically.
Because I remember being a kid and like we would be driving to wherever in the countryside, and you'd see like the, entering whatever city name, and it usually has a population on it. But then I was like, what does unincorporated mean, Mom and Dad? And like, it's so small that they don't bother putting a number there. I'm like, oh, interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, gas stations are the lifeblood of the United States, or something. I think if like gas stations just suddenly all turned into like petrol stations the way they are like in say Korea, Americans would lose their minds.
Well, then everyone loses their minds.
They wouldn't know what to do. Once you loosen up with drink, you can get over language barriers in weird ways. It's kind of magical.
He walked out in the gray light and stood, and he saw for a brief moment the absolute truth of the world. The cold, relentless circling of the intestate earth. Darkness implacable. The blind dogs of the sun in their running. The crushing black vacuum of the universe. And somewhere 200 animals trembling like ground foxes in their cover. Borrowed time and borrowed world and borrowed eyes with which to sorrow it.
And lo, for the earth was empty of form, and void, and darkness was all over the face of the deep, and we said, look at that fucker dance.
Okay. Welcome to Heat Death of the Universe. Coming to you from Seoul, South Korea. It is January 5th, 2021. Sounds weird to say. I guess it's pretty new. It's 12:10 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. And we gotta go soon.
You don't have much time.
Should we start off? This is doing a Biden. Now listen, I gotta go, but let's start the podcast. But I gotta go. Yes, there are some topical news items to go over today, and do a little bit of a history lesson somewhere in there. But we should start with the big one, right? I guess this is probably the biggest thing going on right now, at least in mainstream news.
Crystal Pepsi's back.
Yep.
Awesome. That's not true. Crystal Pepsi's not back. Don't get your hopes up.
I wouldn't be surprised if it is just floating around, but Jesus, let's not get sidetracked on Crystal Pepsi again.
I've already ruined the podcast. What? The mean lady? The mean lady reigns supreme? The nasty woman?
I was talking about Trump.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the dirty girl.
Let me do that second. But no, I think a bigger story in mainstream news, like not talking about like left Twitter, is
the American cheese made a phone call.
Yes, the American cheese, new nickname.
The Kraft man.
There's this leaked audio of Donald Trump just sounding like a cartoon villain, but like one who's bad at being a villain. This is my takeaway right up top. Okay, there's this leaked audio of Donald Trump calling the Secretary of State?
Yes.
Yeah, of Georgia. And essentially like doing a sort of like, it'd be a shame if something happened to your family. Like, I mean, not literally, but he's basically threatening this guy and demanding that this guy like give him the votes that he would need to be able to turn over the election results in Georgia.
11,700.
Yes,
not that many.
He says a very precise number, which is kind of funny in itself. Well, I mean, I guess that in his mind, he probably thinks like, that shows that I've got the facts on my side.
You got to help me find these votes. Find them. You can find them, right? What are we going to do? You best find those votes.
I mean, to me, like some people, like, of course this is I think this would easily be like taken to court, and if he weren't the president, and this could be he could be charged with a crime.
He could easily be taken to court if he is the president, but
well, not really. There's the precedent for that is not really been set.
Oh well, I mean, it seems like it could be an impeachable offense. If Republicans didn't fall in line so well. I wish the left could fall in line like motherfucking Republicans do.
And I mean,
imagine if the left just like forced the issue on everything, like these Tea Party motherfuckers.
But also a lot of like there are like Democrat officials in charge who they're not itching to try to impeach him now.
Well, they've already done it once.
They've done it once, and so I just wanted to add something that I think sums up this point about Trump pretty well. It was a tweet I saw earlier today by Luke Savage. He wrote, "Trump can either be a world historic criminal who poses a mortal threat to everything we hold dear, trademark, or someone who gets to be let off the hook as soon as his utility as the boogeyman du jour has expired. He can't be both." There's a few main points to this story that are worth talking about. I think one is that it shows that people just want him out. Like and he's on his way out. Like there's no way he can turn this around. He's just he's just like he's pandering to his base that is gonna like keep him culturally relevant after he leaves the White House.
I mean, some people think that part of this too is just like actually like I mean, sure, Trump would probably like to stay, and I think he believes he wants to stay, but he also knows that doing this type of pandering would, like, stir up Georgia to get more votes for the Republican Party regardless, because they see that he's fighting for it. And they think if we want to keep Trump, the best way to do that is to make sure the Republican wins in Georgia.
But there's also, like, it also is probably going to just backfire on him, though, in a way, too. Like, it may just galvanize Democratic voters to turn out for this this Senate race that's happening very soon.
Yeah. I mean, but maybe he's just basing it on like the fact that all those Democrat voters are real go-getters, so they all voted early. I don't know where he's basing his count on. I just assumed he was like solid go the early votes. Like, yep, that's what we need to beat.
I mean, he's got advisors and lawyers and shit that are all probably just feeding him bogus conspiracy theories. I mean, like this conversation that was recorded was like about an hour long. I only listened to like a couple of like the highlight clips of it, and it's kind of funny. I gotta say, he just sounds like it. He sounds pathetic to me. Like I don't know. It's not something I'm fearful of. He seems like a pathetic, beaten down man who's like just trying to be relevant in some way. Like he doesn't even sound that intimidating, even though you can tell he's trying to sound intimidating. But he's just kind of like, no, you're wrong. I need the votes. They shredded the documents, and like, and the guys on the other line, the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, their responses to him were just like, no, you're wrong, or that's not true, you know, just kind of sticking to the facts. And he would just go, no, I'm right. And it was like this ridiculous exchange. What I mean, here's the question. Do you think he really believes any of this shit? Trump? Do you think he, in his heart of hearts, believes that like the election was stolen from him?
No,
I don't either. I
hear some like commentators say that he does, but no, I think that he believes in his ability to manipulate the situation because he's manipulated other situations by just like grinding his heels into the ground, and like even if he knows something's not real, just saying it,
just repeating it over and over again. Yeah,
and I think he believes he can still do that, but I think it's not working now.
Oh no,
and I think that's what's making him feel defeated, is that like his superpower to like to like shape reality to its whim, to his whim, is like faltering.
Well, and I mean, there's probably a number of factors. I mean, one is that the general public, not counting like these kind of election truthers, they have a name. I forgot what it is now. It's like steel saver. I don't know, fucking whatever. They have some like hashtag motto or whatever, but they're a really small percentage of the country. I mean, they're basically like the Q people. I mean, maybe a little more mainstream than Q people, but I don't think by much. But like before, like at the beginning of his presidency, he had like the full allegiance of like all the Republicans, Republican politicians at the very least. You know, there are some Republican or conservative commentators or journalists who became these never Trump type people, but like the Senate and the House, like Republicans were lockstep with Trump in a way that they're not quite anymore. Like Mitch McConnell is not going to do anything to help Trump like fuck with the election results, you know?
Yeah.
So he's kind of like on his own in a weird way. And even this list that I saw of people that are like saying that they will not vote to affirm the election, even though haven't they already done that? I remember seeing Mitch McConnell like officially saying like, "Congratulations, Mr. Biden, you are now officially president-elect." Like
I've just taken this and like every election. I feel like every election we've had since Gore has basically been contested to some degree.
Yeah, I mean
and it just gets more and more contested every 4 years.
I mean this one's really pathetic though, because like, I mean, it wasn't a landslide, I think, by most election standards, but it was 7 million more popular vote wise for Biden,
which was less than Hillary's 8 million.
No, Hillary's was like 3 million.
I thought Hillary's was 8 million.
No, it was 3. I remember specifically because you'd hear people screaming 3 million more votes. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure about that. Speaking of Hillary, like her campaign, I mean, what were the last 4 years by a certain segment of Democrats other than contesting the election? That's what Russiagate was. They're saying like this election was bogus because Russia. ICANN has Russia. So yeah, you're right. Like a lot of elections probably since Bush v. Gore, they've been...
That opened the floodgates. I think the Bush-Gore election in 2000 opened the floodgates for like every election ever to be contested, and also...
Well, not officially contested. I mean, I think people, just regular people will cry like, there's foul play here, but like it never turns into anything.
And the media is going to report on it because there's a lot of money to be had. These type of contests, the more you can like gamify and turn the elections into a sport, and this turns it into a sport.
Yeah.
The more money Fox and CN, CBC, NBC, ABC, YBC could make.
The alphabets, yeah. But I think that, I mean, again, like I don't watch like cable news, but I get the sense that they're like, everyone like in any sort of mainstream sense of America has accepted that Biden's going to be the president, and it's only this small, like condensed nutbag population that thinks thinks the election was stolen, but even beyond that, thinks they still can like turn this thing around for Trump. And there's just no way. It's just impossible. Like that's the thing about this leaked call is that say he even got what he wanted. Say they even made up these numbers for him, and then say that they even successfully turned over Georgia as a win. That wouldn't make him president. That wouldn't change the results of the election overall. He has to like overturn the results of like 5 or 6 states, something like that. And it's just impossible. And the Supreme Court has already basically said there's no case here. There's nothing to even reject, basically.
You know what I want President Trump to do? Sorry, this thought just came to me. I do want him to continue contesting the election forever. just to stay in character.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. I mean, I think that's almost guaranteed. There's no way he's going to be like, I finally came to my senses and I agreed.
Here's some bullshittery that I wish would happen in this world. I don't know why I wish it. I think I just wish for terrible things. But like I feel like right before Trump was becoming president in 2016, he had actually bought like land in Washington D.C. to build new hotels. I'm almost 100% sure of that. And one thing I wish he would use some of that land when he realizes he's really not going to be president, and just use, because he has money or he can get loans. Rich people, even if they're not rich, are rich because they just always get to be rich no matter what.
Well, he definitely became richer through the presidency.
I wish he would build a replica of the White House.
I knew you were going to go there.
and live there.
If you weren't going to say that, I was going to say it.
I want him to like.
That would be amazing.
I want his middle finger to be like, "Hey, I built a replica of the White House. This is my White House."
It would be funnier if he made like a bigger one and it was like golden. Like,
yeah, it's the exact same thing, and it's like the Gold House.
The Gold House, but like twice as big and covered in fake, like, you know, gold leaf. Yeah, that would be fantastic. And then just put like a big McDonald's right out front too, for the hell of it. Yeah,
beautiful.
That would be cool. That might be the coolest thing to happen the entire upcoming year.
I do think Trump has one last thing that could actually make him not as terrible as he is, which I know we're supposed to get to later, and I don't think it's going to happen, but it has to do with pardons. He could pardon somebody.
Well, he's pardoned a bunch of people, terrible people. You know that he's preemptively pardoned people, which is something I didn't know you could do. He's preemptively pardoned Rudy Giuliani, his personal lawyer. He's pre-pardoned his like family, not I think like 3 family members that probably most likely have dirt on them. I didn't know that was a thing though, this preemptive pardon, and apparently it is. It's like, and it just basically applies to like all crimes. It's like any charges against Rudy Giuliani will be like basically be automatically pardoned like upon being charged with them. Anyway, yeah, we might get more into that stuff a little later, but
do rich people even need that? I feel like if you're already rich, you're pre-pardoned for everything short of.
Well, not necessarily, because every now and then a very wealthy person will do some prison time. Speaking of, I mean, I guess we'll stay on the pardons thing for a second, because Rod Blagojevich, he was pardoned by Trump, and he was in jail for fucking long time. I can't even remember. It was, man, that was a long time ago, because I remember when that whole scandal went down. So wait, so that was after 2000, that was around 2008. So yeah, it's like he's probably been in jail about 10 years.
14 years?
Can't be that long, because he went to jail for, I mean, like the basic initial crime and then like other crimes surrounding it was trying to sell the vacant Senate seat of Obama after Obama became president.
Right.
So that's, I mean, like even if he went to jail immediately in 2008, that's 12 years. So, but I don't think it was immediate. It was like the case was dragged out for a while.
It's a shame he went to jail. Hear me out on this.
Okay. Go ahead.
America's supposed to be the great free market. We should be able to sell anything that's within our right to sell. I mean, we as Americans, that's our godforsaken freedom to sell things.
I mean, Rod Blagojevich was a real piece of shit. But like, I watched this. There's a documentary on Netflix about like, I think it's just about like famous people kind of crashing and burning or something like that. And one of the episodes is about him, and it's actually pretty interesting. What was I going to say? Like, relatively compared to like a lot of like the run of the mill corruption of today, he seemed sort of like quaint. It's like, oh, all he was trying to do was sell like a Senate seat. Like, I mean, of course it's bad. It's illegal. It's not a good thing. But like, I don't know. As far as I could tell, he wasn't like a warmonger.
Think of all the Senate seats sold behind closed doors.
But I mean, he probably had his hands in all kinds of other shit. Anyway, this is not the Rod Blagojevich rehab podcast. But I do recommend that documentary, whatever it was called.
Save your recommendations for later.
That's not going to be my real one. Maybe it will be. We'll see. So we should, I don't know. I'm done with this Trump thing. Do you know anything else you want to say about it?
Trump build a giant White House in the White House just to make
Gold
me laugh.
House, the Trump Gold House.
Do one thing that's just like for the lulz.
And then he has like,
Lord.
and then they have like one of those big like, I was about to just call it a Megatron. That's not the right word. Those big, the Jumbotron, like those big screens at like baseball games. You just have one of those like huge
screen golf thing.
A huge one like tacked on the top of his gold house, and he would just like have his tweets scrolling across it like every 24 hours a day. Just like his like belligerent, childish, whining shit. Yeah, so the those tapes though, he sounds more pathetic than menacing to me. Yeah, it was just, I found it like just funny, honestly. Like, I mean, it would be more like frustrating and like anger making if I actually thought that it would amount to anything, which I don't at all. Like and he's just disgracing himself further and further, like, and he's running out of time. Like, but I'm sure he'll do some more shit to disgrace himself even more before he's officially gone.
Breaking news.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not breaking. I guess this is from yesterday, but I just saw something in the sideboard of one of the articles you sent me, like one of the random sideboard things.
Yeah.
John Mackey, the CEO of Whole Foods. I just wanted to bring this quote up. He figured out the solution to all of America's problems. The best solution is not healthcare,
nutrition,
but it's to change how Americans eat and live.
Fuck that guy forever.
He should be the president.
He should be in hell sucking Satan's dick for eternity. I hate that guy.
Me too.
So okay.
Sorry,
I don't think
just fucking
no.
lost
I was just we should probably move on to the next bullet point. Yeah, I've said all I need to say about the Trump thing. Really, there's no point in going into the excerpts. I mean, you can read the whole.
I bet John Mackey is very disappointed in how Trump eats.
Yeah. I mean, I'll in the show notes, I'll link to the full transcript the New York Times published as well. So if anyone cares to read it or listen to it, they've got the audio there too.
I suggest listening not to the audio, but like one of my favorite things to do is to put my browser in reading mode and just have Siri read it. The smooth, soothing voice.
Reading Trump's incoherent, belligerent stupidity. That sounds like a good idea.
At 1.5x speed. That's my favorite speed.
Yes. I do not co-sign this. I do not endorse faster speeds, but, you know, make up your own mind, folks.
Some of us live 1/4 mile at a time, Josh.
No, it sounds like you're living... It sounds then like you're living 1 mile at a time. No? I missed... I don't... Whatever. Julian Assange is one step closer to being free, I guess. Although still, I guess, several steps away.
I like how every article about his case, I guess that just happened in England, was about how he was wearing a blue suit and a green face mask. That was brought up in everything.
I did see that mentioned as well. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, somehow my dumb brain took that as the important thing. Ooh, what was Julian wearing? Blue suit, a green face
Are you sure?
mask?
Are you sure you didn't just look at the first paragraph of a couple articles and not read more?
No, these were like in the last paragraphs, I think.
Really? Okay. Well, anyway, the long and short of it is, you know, there's this big decision to be made, and it was made yesterday. And so this judge in the UK, they blocked the extradition to the United States of Julian Assange, which I think is a very good thing, because I think Julian Assange has done nothing criminal, and generally is a good person to have as a. He's not even a journalist. I mean, he's just providing a platform to gather information. I mean, maybe that sounds too like neutralizing, but like, I don't know. I mean, I also don't know a ton about WikiLeaks, but like anything I do know about it, I think is basically a good thing. And I think a lot of it would fall under like,
I mean,
freedom
people
of
loved them until they turned against the Democrats.
Yeah, because they were, revealing war crimes of the Republicans, whatever. Yeah. But what I thought was interesting about, I mean, not to get full, like, we don't need to get full into like, is Julian Assange a good or a bad figure? I think just generally you and I agree that he doesn't belong in jail.
Nope.
So, but what I found interesting about this ruling was, well, he's still stuck in jail. I guess there's going to be some sort of like bail, possibly set, so he might be able at least to get out like temporarily. But anyway, so I'll just read right from this article, bbc.com. The judge blocked the request because of concerns over Mr. Assange's mental health and risk of suicide in the U.S. So what they're saying is that if he was extradited to the U.S., in this judge's opinion, the United States prison system is so faulty and fucked up that they couldn't like prevent him from killing himself, and that's really the reason. It's not. It would have been much better had she just said, "We're not extraditing him because he's done nothing wrong," and just let him go. But I guess one step at a time. Because as soon as he would be extradited to the U.S., I think it would be bad news. I mean, I could just see him like ending up Epstein style on the floor, if you know what I mean.
I do.
If you know what I mean, like I'm being really subtle about
Murdered by the CIA.
Basically, that's it. Yeah, or by somebody who wants him dead, which is probably a lot of people. Could be the Clinton crime family again, who definitely murdered Epstein.
The Clinton Intelligence Agency.
Yes, that's the word. I guess the other thing is that the U.S. can also appeal this judgment. They have like 2 weeks to do it, and they are expected to do so. I imagine the appeal won't matter. I don't think it will like reverse the decision. But I guess who knows? So I guess fingers crossed still. But anyway, there's just something that, I mean, it's notable. It's worth mentioning. And I just thought that the reasoning behind the judge's decision was kind of interesting and telling about how other countries view our prison system and legal system generally.
I guess I should, in case it wasn't abundantly clear earlier, when I said the thing that could still make Trump like a much less than a bad guy and a pardon, I was talking about Julian Assange.
Yeah,
he could fucking pardon Julian Assange, and I would instantly like him probably 100 points more. I'm not really sure what my point system looks like, but we'll say 100 points is a lot. I would instantly give Donald Trump 100 positive points. I'd go to my Class Dojo page where I keep all of my politicians' points and negative points, and I would instantly give him 100 points and send like a nice little email to his parents saying, Donald did real well this month. He's really improved in my class.
I'm still, I mean, he still has time to do it. It's not going to happen, but I think this is one of those things where he does actually listen to his advisors, unlike other things. And of course, like, no one in mainstream politics can be seen to be or wants to be sympathetic to Julian Assange for the most part, or Snowden for that matter. I mean, a lot of people were trying to like kind of sort of like trick Trump into pardoning Snowden and Assange. I think like Glenn Greenwald went on Fox News or something, and was like, Mr. President, if you really want to stick it to the libs, like,
I remember that.
Pardon these men. Like, you can do it. You can be a hero. He's like, you know, Glenn Greenwald is no fan of Trump, of course, but like, I just found that kind of funny because I could see him watching it in the White House and like really giving it some thought. And then like his advisors are like, no, you can't do that. It'll tarnish your legacy, sir, because that's a left-wing idea, you know.
If only Alex Jones would say such things. Maybe he does. I have no clue what Alex Jones does. Does he even exist anymore? Did he die?
It's kind of amazing he hasn't yet, given his general state of health. But I mean, shit. I'm actually surprised he didn't get COVID. I haven't been keeping up with Alex Jones. I used to listen to a podcast. I'm still subscribed to it. I just kind of fell away from it.
Really? I've never listened to it. I'm shocked.
No, not. Wait, what are you saying? That I listen to a podcast?
No, to Alex Jones.
No, I don't listen to Alex Jones' podcast, but there is a podcast that chronicles Alex Jones' show called Knowledge Fight, which is really good. But they release so many episodes, it's kind of hard to keep up with. I think they release like 3 a week, and like sometimes they're like 3 hours long. Like they go really, really deep into Alex Jones stuff.
So are they like releasing like simultaneously to like parallel to Alex Jones? He releases an episode and they're like, oh fuck.
No, not exactly. They actually sometimes pick like an era in the history of Alex Jones and focus on that. Like I gave them Patreon money at one point. I don't anymore because I haven't listened to it for a while. Not because I don't like it. It's just, you know, too many things to listen to. But sure. I gave like at the $10 level, which meant I could suggest like what to do some episodes on. And I was like, go back to like the Occupy Wall Street days. I want to hear what Alex Jones was up to then. And so they did, and they said my name on the podcast. It was so exciting.
That's smart of them, asking their paying audience to do their work for them. Come up with ideals for us, please.
No, it's like, what do you want to hear? And the main guy, there's 2 guys. One of them is like a stand-up comic mostly, and then the other guy does like just insane amounts of research and like pulling clips from Alex Jones. Like, anyway, now I totally lost my train of thought. Anyway, I used to listen to that, and that's how I knew what was going on with Alex. My friend Alex. But I haven't listened to it for a while, so I don't know. I mean, I do know that like once he was deplatformed, like he just, you know, he's probably just like even worse now about like trying to sell like supplements and shit to like make money. And he was already pretty bad about that before he was deplatformed, so... Anyway, also Alex Jones is like kind of fascinating to pay attention to or hear people critique, but it gets a little samey after a while.
It's like listening to all the not listening. I remember I used to like read a lot of essays critiquing Rush Limbaugh because I hated him so much, and I wanted more like cannon fire for why I hated him so much. So
yeah, I mean Rush Limbaugh is in the same way, just kind of like he's just put on repeat, you know. He just has his like go-to mode of screaming red-faced, basically.
Exactly.
So
maybe we need to do more red-faced screaming.
I'll try. Well, we might get there on this next subject. No, we won't, because I'm over it. But
I'm too peaceful.
Shut up, man. You get furious all the time, just not on the podcast.
I'm peacefully aligned. I sit in the very middle of everything.
Right, enlightened centrist that you are.
I am the eye of the world, and the world is my storm.
The view from nowhere. So this was the big news you thought I was talking about in the beginning, but this is big news more in the like sort of left Twitter sphere more than mainstream news. I mean, some mainstream like news is just announcing it in a like dispassionate way, but where people are getting like arguing about it and stuff is mostly just online, and it's like leftist infighting basically. Yes, Nancy Pelosi was officially reelected Speaker of the House, very, very narrowly, which, ties this all into the force the vote thing. Because actually it turned out that they would have needed so few people to reject Pelosi in favor of another person to not elect her as speaker. So one of the contentious points about this whole thing is that the people that are sort of supporting the squad's decision, and let's just start off with the squad, so everyone even remotely considered a progressive in the House voted for her. Even though like AOC and Cori Bush.
Here's what AOC had to say about it. About why she voted for Pelosi.
Well, just one. AOC and Cori Bush didn't. And no one seems to know why. And it's probably nothing like conspiratorial or even meaningful, but I sort of think it might be in a way. But when the first round of votes was going through, so the way they do this is they just yell out your name and you yell out who you want to vote for. It's very high tech. But like when they said Ocasio-Cortez, silence, like you can't really even see if she was in the audience or maybe chamber, she was
whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, or she was outside. And there was the same thing with Cori Bush. So then what ended up going like people started posting, yes, Cori Bush is the one person to like stand up to her. And then they did a second round of like voting for the people that were like absent basically. And yeah, of course she just voted for Pelosi. Everybody did. But go ahead with what AOC said.
I guess to explain her vote, she said, "We are just an extremely slim amount of votes away from risking the speakership to the Republican Party."
Nope.
Said Representative AOC.
She's just
in the
go on.
Past vocal about needing to transition to a new leadership away from Pelosi. But she went on to say, "This is bigger than any of us. We just can't lose to those devil Republicans." You know, she didn't say that.
I was going to say
that we can't lose to those devil Republicans, but that's what it is. It's like, and maybe it's just the same thing. It's the same thing as you got to vote for Trump.
But actually, it's not.
I guess Pelosi's pulling the same thing, but I feel like it's not.
But it's not. This is a lie. This is a fucking lie. It doesn't work that way. What would have happened, okay? The only way that it would have gone to McCarthy, the Republican guy, is if enough Democrats said they weren't voting, period. But
it would basically come down to enough Democrats said, if we can't have Pelosi, we're not voting for whoever else is chosen.
But they could just vote for anybody. They could vote for AOC. They could vote for Ilhan Omar. They could vote for anyone on the squad. They could vote for themselves. Like
they could vote for me.
It's not like a presidential campaign where you have to like submit like paperwork and shit to like be in the running. So what would have happened? The only way that the Republican guy would have automatically just taken over would have been if the protest votes, the leveraged votes, were all just saying no, I'm not voting. Which to me this is a larger point, but like it's weird to me that that's even an option. Maybe it's not weird. Maybe someone can explain it to me. But like in so many votes in the House and the Senate, people just say, no, I'm not saying anything. It's like, it's abstaining basically. And that's the only way that would have happened. But there were, I think it was 5 or 6, I have to look at it again, Democrats who did not vote for Pelosi. Just none of them happened to be progressives or squad members.
I thought Bernie didn't vote for her.
Bernie's not in the House.
All right. What am I thinking of? I'm thinking of, oh, no. I was getting this confused suddenly with stimulus stuff.
That's something else I want to talk about in a minute.
I knew he wasn't
too.
in the House. My brain was just, I just always want to be like, yeah, Bernie's cool. If Bernie was in the House, they would not make him the Speaker of the House. I'm glad he's not in the House. He deserves better.
Yeah, I don't know if the Senate's really better. I think the Senate should just be abolished, but that's a whole other issue.
Abolish government, man. Just anarchy.
No, like I'm fine with parliamentary politics in general, but like these two houses of Congress, like I think. And anyway, there's like a really bigger issue. There's theory behind why the Senate is like an illegitimate group that shouldn't really exist, and they have too much power and so on. But this thing with Pelosi, so I think so there are multiple reasons that people are giving, that like AOC is giving, that Cori Bush is giving. The idea that we're so close to having a Republican take over is just, it's very misleading at best, because she knows damn well how the rules work. Like, and that's the thing is, they had like a year more, like they had a year, 2 years rather, to maybe push for someone else to become the speaker. And that was never even floated as an idea. But the main thing is that this would have just been like an act of protest, and a way of leveraging certain, like, for example, bringing a vote on Medicare for all to the floor, or a vote on all sorts of other things. Like, anyway, I just find the reasoning like to be suspect and at best, and like disingenuous, and like kind of just lying at worst. So another one of the reasons was this Payco thing, which I scrambled to try to understand this morning right before we started recording. And so this was one of the things Cori Bush brought up. Well, before we get into that, the other reasons were, they just like threw a bunch of reasons at the wall. They're like, well, we all need to be united because there's a coup. This was one of the things AOC said. We need to be united as Democrats because there's a presidential coup taking place right now amongst the Republicans. Which is also not, just fucking not true. It's just not true. Like, and how does having Pelosi as Speaker of the House help prevent a presidential coup anyway, which is not happening? Like, it just, I've never had as little confidence in this squad business than I do now. Like, and it seems to get like worn down more every day that I hear new things about them. Like Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush, this was their very first day in Congress, and this, just on a symbolic level, it's like off to a bad start, in my opinion. They were supposed to be the ones coming in, like really shaking things up. They're just immediately lockstep with the party. And yes, maybe you could say, well, there weren't any other realistic options for a different speaker, but why not? Why not? Like, because the thing is they could drag this out, like, and it would draw attention to the fact that Nancy Pelosi is less popular than Donald Trump now. Donald Trump now has more popularity in polling than Nancy Pelosi has. I don't know. I think it's all disappointing to me in a way. This Pago thing, basically what it is, and like it's way more complicated than I'm going to be able to talk about, but like it's this hang on a minute.
So, I think there were three approaches that they could have taken. And these are three approaches that kind of social justice advocates really have to weigh every time there is an issue that Democratic leadership wants. One approach is they basically say, look, we're going to do what you want anyway. We're going to vote for Pelosi as speaker. We're going to tell you the things that we want, but at the end of the day, you can count on our support. That's really a recipe. You can understand it in some ways if the alternative is really bad. But it's a recipe for not getting anything. So that's an approach in this circumstance that I don't really think was defensible for them to take. The other two approaches that they can take, one is they can say, look, Pelosi is a huge obstacle to progressive progress, and she's been super dismissive of us. She's blocked our agenda at every turn. We're not going to vote for her regardless of what you do. We need somebody new as speaker. So if you're going to put Pelosi up as the Democratic nominee for speaker, you just will not get our votes. They could have done that, and I think that would have been okay. But the third approach that they could have taken, and I think was the one some people were hoping that they were taking during this debate, was we will consider voting for Pelosi if you give us one. And if they take that approach, we really need to look at, does Pelosi, that approach only works if Pelosi and the Democrats think that they might actually, at the end of the day, withhold their votes if they don't get enough. So the question here is, did they get, like, if you think that that's the approach that they were taking, did they get enough? And it's hard to evaluate without knowing everything that they advocated for. But I think this is the question that progressive organizations and individuals really need to take a hard look at, because when I look at the last few weeks, what I see is an Energy and Commerce Committee fight where AOC did not get the seat that she wanted, and somebody who voted against Pelosi in 2018 got that seat instead. I see a coronavirus relief bill that was a bad compromise bill that contained a lot of bad stuff that Democrats didn't have very much time to review before voting on it, that they were basically just handed as a take it or take nothing proposition. And then we see a rules package where progressives are pointing to wins they got, motion to recommit and PAYGO exemptions, but the exemptions aren't super broad. They wanted a full repeal of PAYGO. And motion to recommit is something that non-progressive Democrats probably wanted too. So, or at least many of them probably wanted to. So to me, this is not a big win for progressives, and we really should have seen more opposition to Pelosi and greater demands in this fight.
Sorry, I was thinking it was like if money's taken or added to one program, it has to be taken away from another program.
That's the long and short of it, basically. I mean, okay, here The Intercept says, this is just a title and a subheader, but Nancy Pelosi, this is from exactly a year ago. Nancy Pelosi rams austerity provision into House rules package over objections of progressives, and this austerity provision is the PAYGO rule. The PAYGO rule makes it more difficult for Democrats to pass a host of liberal agenda items, while Republicans are free to blow big holes in the tax code. Of course, that's something Nancy Pelosi would do, because she's a fucking Republican. And so when this was happening a year ago, there were two squad members sort of throwing a fit about it, which is good. AOC and Rokana. And they ultimately didn't vote for the spending package, but everyone else did, including all the wonderful squad heroes. And yeah, I mean, like it's sort of this very convoluted thing, and it's like it's been in effect and then it's been out of effect like over the years. But like the point, the main point is that Nancy Pelosi rammed it through, as this headline tells us, a year ago, and now the big triumph that the squad people are talking about, that they got essentially by voting for Pelosi, is that they're going to basically repeal, or I think reform. I think they're not even like fully getting rid of it.
If it's a repeal, that is a triumph. If it's a reform, whatever.
And I guess I should have looked into that more.
Progressives are pointing to wins they got, motion to recommit and PAYGO exemptions, but the exemptions aren't super broad. They wanted a full repeal of PAYGO. And motion to recommit is something that non-progressive Democrats probably wanted too. So, or at least many of them probably wanted to. So to me, this is not a big win for progressives, and we really should have seen more opposition to Pelosi and greater demands in this fight.
But like, it's just funny that the thing that they're like touting is something that the person they voted for put there in the first place. You know what I mean?
No, it's messed up because honestly, the reason PAYGO or things like PAYGO exist is pandering to the center, because Republicans always cry foul about the deficit. But like most people who follow like modern economics, I think like probably the best theory of economics in our government would be way better if we just followed like MMT, like modern monetary theory, which basically the four tenets are: if your government creates its own currency, then it should be able to use that currency to pay for goods, services, and financial assets without a need to collect money in the form of taxes or debt issuance in advance of such purchases. As in, the government makes its own money, so it should be able to pay for healthcare, food, and other things people need without problem. It cannot be forced to default on debt dominated by its own currency. That means that the government probably shouldn't be able to be in debt to itself. I mean, there's plenty of money out there. In fact, if you don't believe that, look at how much money we can easily find to support the military. And the next thing is, really the only thing that should limit money creation is inflation, and inflation should really only be based on like when real resources, labor, capital, and natural resources are in short supply or inflated. And I don't know. It's fucked. Like what I think's fucked about like this PAYGO stuff is they want to say, okay, if money's going to be moved into healthcare, then we have to take it away from the arts program at the school. But we can never take away all the fucking like money that we put into the military, and who fucking knows where that comes from.
Yeah. I mean, it's a completely fucked rule. And the funniest thing is that a Democrat speaker pushed it through, even though it mainly hinders Democrats. Like, it doesn't really even affect Republicans' main agendas at all.
I think it's a neo-lib thing just to pander to the center, because they think much like...
well, Republicans are pushing for it as well because they know that it fucks with the Democrats.
Well, but, yeah, I mean, and what I mean is a neo-lib thing is they think it if they do like PAYGOs type stuff, they think it shows that they're being responsible with money. It's like the same thing that like how Clinton Bill became president is by being the tough on crime Democrat. And I think they want to, like, a lot of neo-libs would like to be the tough on budget, the austerity Democrats, to be like, hey, look, we're also conservative with money.
Yeah, I mean, and the Clinton thing is a good comparison, but it's funny is Clinton was also the same way about, keeping spending down, because that was the era of the damn tax and spend liberocrats. So yeah, but like neoliberals aren't leftists, obviously, and it's not. I don't think they're doing it because they want Republicans to like them. They're doing it because that's what they believe in. I mean, that is their ideology, is market-based solutions and so on.
Yep.
But what was I going to say? Oh, but like what's funny is that like, because it doesn't placate their political enemies. I mean, look how hard like Republicans win after Clinton, like all the time. And Obama, for that matter, even though Obama was basically an austerity zealot. But leaving aside all of that pay-go stuff, because it's actually kind of, I mean, it's important, and I'm gonna link to some more detailed articles about it. But we're also sort of pressed for time here as well. But it has important implications, but it's also kind of boring to just like talk about what it means, like within in the terms that it.
So
that
my
Congress
simple
uses.
explanation of what it means is it means it's a great excuse for why we can't fund shit.
Yeah. And I don't know exactly what this triumph is that maybe could have happened because of voting for Pelosi. I just don't think it has anything to do with voting for Pelosi. It doesn't look like they leveraged their vote to get rid of pay-go. If they did, I think they would have said it very loudly.
I do too.
That's why I think the squad is scrambling for explanations of why because everyone's asking them, why did you vote for Pelosi? Why did you vote for Pelosi? And their reasons keep changing, or there's just this like list of contradictory reasons, and there's reasons that are just false, like we had to keep a Republican from becoming the speaker. Anyway, it's all disappointing. What else do we have here? Probably should get going pretty soon, but want to talk about presidential pardons?
All right, presidential pardons.
So I mean, we've touched upon it, and it's that time of year, the pardoning season. And yeah, we talked before about the Blackwater guys that Trump pardoned, and I'd mentioned earlier these preemptive pardonings. That's really fucked up. But there's kind of an interesting history of pardoning all the way back to the main man, George Washington. One thing I was shocked about looking at some of the history was how many pardons individual presidents did at certain times. Like,
I have a solution to pardons. Hear me out on this.
Okay.
Instead of presidential pardons, why don't we just have a every 4 years everyone's pardon policy? Like every criminal, they just pardoned every 4 years.
Your ideas are intriguing. I would like to subscribe to your newsletter. Well, one thing I found, which sort of made me sort of eat some of my own words about some of the shit I've talked about Obama, is that apparently and this is not to say he didn't do some like very suspect pardoning as well, but what did I read here?
He pardoned Chelsea Manning, which was great.
Yes, well, he didn't pardon her. He commuted her sentence, which has like a significant legal difference. But in terms of getting out of jail, it has the same difference. But like,
my bad.
Well, no, I mean, it's easy to. The way I found out about that was because I said the same thing once, and somebody corrected me online. But yeah, he commuted the sentence, which means that she's still technically, has been found guilty of these crimes. It's just they let her out early. Which has like,
but if she applies for a job, she still has to put down the felony.
That, and it's just, I think that's the principle of it, is like, it's saying like, you're still wrong. And it also probably prevents some sort of legal precedent being set for other whistleblowers. I think that's probably the main reason. But it says that in his 8 years, he pardoned, commuted, or rescinded the conviction of 1,927 people. And there's like, what I'm getting at is where did I read this? God damn it. Sorry. Apparently like a vast majority of those were for drug offenses, which I was kind of surprised to see.
Yeah, I kind of knew that.
I didn't look too hard into like how he chose those people, though, because it also makes me think. Because remember, I said somewhere before that like if Donald Trump just pardoned like every person with a drug possession offense,
can't do it. You know why? Because there's too many papers to sign, Joshua.
Yeah, don't have enough ink.
There's not enough time. Not enough time to sign that.
Not enough time. Not enough ink. Not enough paper. Yeah, that's true. What am I thinking?
Imagine how big his forearm would get. Working it out with a pen.
So anyway, I thought that was interesting. Let's see. Most individuals granted executive clemency by Obama had been convicted on drug charges and received lengthy and sometimes mandatory sentences at the height of the war on drugs. Oh, that's funny. Those mandatory sentences, they came from his vice president at the time.
A lot of them.
Huh?
That's how he knew who to pardon. Joe told him.
I sent that guy to jail personally.
Joe's like, I feel real bad about these days. Ever since the problems with my son, been thinking about it. Let's free him up.
Yeah, I'm also just thinking about. I don't know. Okay, it's a good thing that he did that, of course, but it also just immediately makes me think about why. It's sort of the same principle of like when Kamala Harris says no one should ever have to pay for COVID treatment, but then won't say that no one should ever have to pay for cancer treatment or diabetes treatment, or what I'm saying, like, whoa, we'll cover you in this way, but we won't cover you in these other ways. It's like the president will let 1,000 people out of jail, but we're going to still continue putting like millions of people into jail for the same kind of drug offenses. So it almost in a way kind of cancels out the good intentions. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But you know what I mean? Like it draws attention to the problem, which is the prison industrial complex being basically fueled by drug convictions, like these petty charges that shouldn't exist.
And cops getting paid on quotas.
Yeah, I mean,
how many arrests they can make.
It's all part of, that larger disgusting machine of for-profit
actually, like, I'm obviously not a Blue Lives Matter person at all, but I think if they took away quota incentives from cops, would actually be a gigantic improvement.
Oh yeah, it would definitely help in a number of ways, I think, because then also you could well, this goes against the defund the police, but instead of using that bonus money, you could use it elsewhere. Maybe, yeah, it could go towards the community itself rather than just into the pockets of police officers who already, generally speaking, I think make pretty decent livings compared to other sort of similar middle class jobs. They definitely make more than teachers, right?
In general. I think it's a
They
state-by-state
have a
basis,
way
and,
more
like,
powerful union than teachers' unions.
it's a state-by-state thing, and it's also they usually make more. I was going to say it's an experience thing, like how long on the job.
Yeah. Anyway,
Was it the person who had like the worst pardons, original Bush, right after Reagan?
original Bush. I don't know. You tell me.
I think original Bush. I don't remember the names of everyone, but
George H.W.
Original Bush.
I like original Bush. It's just reminding me of like KFC flavor or something.
Oh, it makes me think of Bush beer. Original Bush, not Bush Light. CIA Bush. He basically got rid of all the Iran. He pardoned all the Iran Contra felons, like basically the Casper Weinberger, the former Secretary of Defense, and 5 others. Basically, all the people who had like the illegal dealings during the Reagan era Iran Contra scandal. Original Bush pardoned all of them, and they could have been some of the most evil people ever pardoned because they kind of like were some of the biggest names in like really fucking up the Middle East.
Yes, I'm looking at the list here too, but I will also. It also looks though that original George Bush, he pardoned the least amount of people. Sent like I'm going back all the way to Truman to FDR, Hoover. It looks like he pardoned the least amount of people. Like.
Thing is, I don't think pardons are bad.
I don't necessarily
like numbering them by least or greatest. It's not like how many. The people he pardoned were bad.
Okay, I agree. It's not necessarily the numbers. I'm just saying it's interesting that he pardoned way fewer than everybody before or after him. It seems. I'm taking a quick look at it here, and yes, he pardoned terrible people, but look who Clinton pardoned. Look who George W. Bush pardoned. Anyway, I think like lots of people get pardoned that shouldn't be, and then I guess it seems to be kind of a mixed bag. I mean, maybe not with Trump here. Some of Trump's names pardoned people that jump out to me are Joe Arpaio, one of the most evil people ever. You know about him.
A little bit.
The sheriff in Arizona.
You can tell us about him. All right. Yeah, I knew that name was familiar.
He's just a real fucking Nazi. Like, real Nazi type.
He really sucks. I didn't realize he had been pardoned. That sucks.
Yeah, he was pardoned 2017.
Oh, I didn't know about that. I just wiped it out of my main...
Wait, what the hell? Donald Trump also pardoned Scooter Libby? How did this guy get pardoned twice for the same thing? Oh, maybe it was like an additional sentence or something. Oh, I see. Okay, never. It doesn't matter. George W. Bush commuted the guy's sentence, but Trump actually pardoned him. Dinesh D'Souza, that piece of shit. He was so happy when that guy went to jail. He's one of the worst people on earth. He was convicted of campaign finance violations, and he got out of probably a country club prison, I'm guessing, but he got out after 4 years because of Trump.
Awesome.
And probably just because he was like, do you know much about Dinesh D'Souza? I don't know, but
just a little bit. I know
he makes like these really terrible, like conservative documentaries about like. It's like he attacks Obama and Hillary Clinton, but for like all the wrong reasons. And then he made some other documentary that was like just about like how evolution is false and liberals are. It's just like, it's not even, it's like boring, stupid shit as well. Like stuff that would have been controversial like 15 years ago. Anyway, Rod Blagojevich, we talked about. Roger Stone, that's a big one. Roger Stone should be in jail for sure, but he's also like Trump's number one guy. So Trump, of course, got him out of a tough situation. Anyway, there's a long, rich tradition of pardoning. There was one president, I'm trying to remember who it was, who pardoned like this really, Andrew Johnson pardoned 7,000 people for, I don't know, something about taxes, not paying their taxes or something. Yeah, he pardoned a lot of people overall. Oh, including a bunch of ex-Confederate soldiers. Who
didn't a lot of those ex-Confederate soldiers then end up back in the government? Or I just
three of them were all part of the conspiracy to kill Lincoln. He pardoned them. He was a Democrat, so he probably hated Lincoln. Andrew Johnson was the guy right after Lincoln.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, high five, guys. Way to kill that fucker. Let me in. All right, we should probably wrap it up.
Okay.
I've already kind of made. I'm just gonna stick with check out that podcast Knowledge Fight about Alex Jones. I can't vouch for anything they've done in the last probably year and a half, but before that, a lot of it is pretty fun to listen to. And maybe just, I think I would recommend like just going back to the very beginning and then maybe jumping around. But yeah, it's a cool podcast. That's my recommendation. No, I'm sorry. Do you have something?
I thought I did.
Take your time.
Oh, what's my recommendation? What's my recommendation? I've got my recommendation now. My recommendation is whenever you're trying to think of something, just start singing out of tune because it's comforting. My other recommendation is I've spent a few hours this week and I plan on spending hundreds of hours very soon playing Crusader Kings 3, which seems to be the greatest strategy game of all times. You start out much like a civilization game. You start out as a ruler or a king or an emperor, and you go through all of Earth's history becoming a great ruler, and you can lead by diplomacy or warfare. And you know what? You can just go ahead and exit reality and create your own reality where you were born into like a noble family that gets to rule shit, unlike me, who's always going to be poor.
There's a running theme of your recommendations where you explicitly say, check out of reality with this recommendation. But it's honest. I mean, most entertainment things are just a way of checking out of reality somewhat.
If there's anything I hate more than reality, I haven't discovered it yet.
Oh man, I'm going to be chewing on that one for a while. That's a good note to go out on, except we should also promote ourselves. I remembered without a note. This is what we call progress.
That is progress.
Where do people find us on the internet?
Check us out on the internet at heatdeathpod.com. You can also check us out at heatdeathpod Twitter handle at heatdeathpod.
Check us out at heatdeathpod Twitter handle. That's all one word.
You can also check us out at Instagram at Heat Death Pod. You can also
actually
find
Instagram is just Heat Death of the Universe.
Oh right,
the long
I'm
one.
sorry.
Doesn't matter. We
don't
really post there.
You can email us at heatdeathoftheuniverse podcast at gmail.com.
That's right.
Podcast.
And again, we encourage people to send us your thoughts, your opinions, not even necessarily about us, just about things in general, and we will read them on the air. And
if you come to the southern base of Namsan Mountain and scream, Joshua, Jason, where are you? Very loudly, we'll come and meet you at the base of Namsan Mountain.
Yes, this is the Heat Death guarantee.
You have to scream real loudly, though.
I do like how the plugs turn into screaming in various ways to get our attention.
From the base of the mountain.
Well, I think the first time you said you can scream into the sky and we'll come find you.
If you wanted to like make fantasies come true, you could build a heat death signal, like a big bat signal, and just launch it up at the moon.
Yeah, it can be the bat signal. We'll just assume it's for us also. Okay, I gotta go. Got stuff to do very soon.
Bye, Joshua.
All right, see ya.
Bye, listeners.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Yesterday, any way you made it was just fine. So you turned your days into nighttime. Didn't you know you can't make it without ever even trying? And something's on your mind, isn't it? Let these times show you that you're breaking up your mind, leaving all your dreams too far behind. Didn't you see? You can't make it without ever even trying. And something's on your mind. Maybe another day you'll wanna feel another way. You can't stop crying. You haven't got a thing to say. You feel you wanna run away. There's no use trying. Anyway, I've seen the writing on the wall. Who cannot maintain will always fall. Will you know you can't make it without ever even trying? Something's on your mind, isn't it? Tell the truth now, isn't it? Something's on your mind. Something's on your mind.
The first voice recording was made in 1860. It was a 10-second fragment of the French folk song Au clair de la lune recorded by inventor Edward Leon Scott de Martinville. But who will make the final voice recording and when? What will it be? Who will hear it?